Good morning. This is Teresa at Divine Frequency. How are y'all doing today? I received a very great comment yesterday on my video, Disclosure is Imminent. I will put it up here for y'all to see it if you haven't already. And I wanted to read this comment, and I got a really earnest question from a non-Christian follower of mine, and it was a very respectful comment, a very respectful question, and I just first and foremost want to commend Ron for jumping into the conversation here and submitting this comment that I'm about to read. I just am really grateful that we can have civil discourse on this channel, which is the whole reason why I've created it. So thank you for joining the conversation. I'm excited to do this video today. We're going to be talking about if God exists, then how does evil, or why does evil continue to exist? And this question was to come at it from a Christian perspective. So this is the comment. When you came back online and declared you refound your religion, I got worried. In my experience, that usually means born-again fundamentalism, trying to convert others to see the light. You didn't do that. You're still fighting a good fight for the truth of our reality. We aren't alone in the universe. Clearly, I'm not religious, so I have an honest question for you. Please understand, I'm not a troll. My question is from a place of true curiosity. It is my understanding the Christian God and most others these days are supposed to be all-powerful. How is it that they're still evil? How is it there's a battle being fought? All-powerful to me means there is no equal. A wipe of a hand and the fight is over. While I'm not being religious myself, I have a spirituality. I know there's something after we leave these bodies. There's a place we go to learn, to grow, to experience. I have zero doubt there's a mind behind our evolution and development. There is a mind behind the creation of our multiverse. That there are a multitude of dimensions and timelines we aren't currently capable of experiencing as of yet. Perhaps that's a video idea. Talk about a video idea. That's a lot of video ideas. What are your thoughts on any of that coming from a Christian point of view? My warmest thoughts will always be with you. Thank you, Ron, for jumping in here and submitting this question. And I'm just going to go ahead and give a disclaimer right now. For those of you who are new to this channel, you might not know this, but those of you who have been here for a while, you know, I am not here to tell anybody what to believe. I'm not here to try to convert anybody to anything. I am very big on free will and free speech, and this is my platform, and I'm going to share with you guys today. And if you are not interested in this particular kind of content, please just don't watch this video, and stay tuned, because we're talking about all kinds of different stuff here. This might not be your bag. If not, no worries. But what I'm going to be doing is actually doing my due diligence here to attempt to cover this in its fundamental basics for Ron today. As some of you might know, I've been to seminary. I've been studying. I was raised Catholic. I left the church when I was about 17 or 18. I swore off organized religion altogether. I had serious issues with authoritarian belief structures in general. But what it came down to is, in the last couple of years, I have had a very, very strong return to my Christian faith. I had a very intense conversion experience that I've covered a little bit on this channel, but we can talk about it more if you guys are curious about it. Anything in particular there, but I've experienced spiritual warfare very, very intensely, and I've come to really, really appreciate Christianity in a completely new way, which I feel like has equipped me to kind of go into this new age space and have some of these conversations, because I find that, because I was new age for a really long time. And I think that, unfortunately, a lot of Christian YouTubers that have had some kind of conversion experience, and Ron speaks to this, go extremely fundamentalist and very judgmental. And I am not that in any kind of way, shape, or form. That's not my bag. It's just not who I am. But I just want to help by bringing into the conversation some things that I found useful that are positive for me. My intention is never to try to put down anybody. I'm just trying to share what's given me a deep sense of hope and has literally changed my life. Like, I would not be here today if it weren't for the radical transformation that I went through. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and dive in. And so I wanted to start, by saying stay to the end of the video because I wanted to cover something really cool at the end, but I'll cover that at the end. So first and foremost, I wanted to cover in the Catechism of the Catholic Church, and this is a book on doctrine. There's also a book we're going to be covering called Bible Doctrine. It's just more of a, it's a Southern Baptist book that they use this at the seminary that I went to in 2019. Okay, I wanted to open up with, and this is all free on the internet, so you can go look at the Catechism on the internet. And the section we're going to cover is Article 3, Man's Freedom. God created man a rational being, conferring on him the dignity of a person who can initiate and control his own actions. So what I love about what Ron's saying is that, like, he's legit over here. He's saying, like, I do believe there's something after we leave these bodies. There's a place we go to learn, to grow, to experience. I have zero doubt in my mind there's a mind behind our evolution and development. So Ron and I agree on this. You know, there's clearly, and I think most of us here do, and, you know, we inside of us, we know that there is a God. And this is another thing that's in this book that I was actually reading this morning. I'll have to pull that up later. It's kind of a cool passage. Okay, so I love this part on freedom and responsibility. Freedom is the power rooted in reason and will to act or not to act, to do this or that, and so to perform deliberate actions on one's own responsibility. By free will, one shapes one's own life. Human freedom is a force for growth and maturity in truth and goodness. It attains its perfection when directed toward God. Okay. So I'm just going to read the summary of this section. You can go read it in full online, but I'm just going to cover this. So freedom characterizes properly human acts. It makes the human being responsible for acts of which he is the voluntary agent. His deliberate acts belong properly to him. The imputability or responsibility for an action can be diminished or nullified by ignorance, duress, fear, and other psychological or social factors. The right to the exercise of freedom, especially in religious and moral matters, is an inalienable requirement of the dignity of man, but the exercise of freedom does not entail the putative right to say or do anything. Okay, so we're talking about free will here. So God gave us free will. There's also a section in here, Article 4 is about morality of human acts, and it's so nerdy and delicious. You should read it if you're interested in this kind of stuff, because it really blew my mind. It goes into, like, the sources of morality. It breaks morality down into 3 components: the object chosen, the end in view or the intention, and the circumstances of the action, which I think is just fascinating. So that I wanted to kind of open up with the nature of sin in humankind. And then I wanted to, here it is. Okay, so I loved this. So this is what I was kind of speaking to earlier. Humanity has an inner sense of God, and this is what I was speaking to with what Ron was saying. All persons everywhere have a deep inner sense that God exists, that they are his creatures, and he is their creator. So now we're going to break down God's character, and I'm going to do this just fundamental basics. We could go on and on about this, but I'm just going to tell you 3 points about this. So God's character is omnipotent. God has the ability to do anything, so he created free beings to do what they will, and it was God's will that we have free will. Second, he's omniscient, so God has infinite knowledge. So being humans, we lack full perspective. We don't know everything. So an example in this article that I read, which I'll link below, it talks about, you take a child to get a shot, it's for their greater good, but it causes them pain, right? And I think that anybody, even if you're not Christian, a lot of people in any spiritual circles, you say you're spiritual, Ron, I'm sure that we can agree on this. And you even say this in your comment, there are gradations of truth seeking, and we develop as human beings, we evolve, we go through things that better us. Sometimes those things cause us pain, and then we actually learn greater lessons from it. So I think on a fundamental basis, we can agree on that. And what I'm sharing today, this information, what I love about all of this that I'm sharing is that fundamentally, this is all truth. This is all universal truth that I'm pulling from Bible doctrine. So what I'm trying to do here is showcase or demonstrate that even before I was getting really deeply into theology, these are things that can be found just in general anywhere because they're universal truth. So I think that spirituality aside, I guess what I'm not trying to say spirituality aside, taking spirituality into context here, these are things that are universally true. Okay. Third thing about God's character, he's omnibenevolent. So God is infinitely good. God is love and kindness, and he created us for eternal happiness in the next phase of our soul's existence. And I bring this up because I believe, now this is where I'm bringing in some of my own commentary here. This is not from a catechism or a Bible doctrine book. I believe that and this is probably scriptural. I bet I could pull Bible verses from this, but there's a tempering that we are going through and a preparation that I believe that God is putting each soul on this planet through to prepare us for what's next. And I think probably most people would agree with me on that, regardless of if you're Christian. But anyway, so now I wanted to get into the scriptural basis for what I'm talking about here, because I think that for someone who's a non-Christian who's interested, like Ron, in these kinds of topics, I want to equip you. So I'm going to actually be reading a section that I sort of covered yesterday, and I'm going to be reading it from the Amplified Holy Bible. And this is 1 Corinthians chapter 13. And, this is the whole love is patient, love is kind one that everybody knows, but I'm actually going to be reading what comes after that. So it's 1 Corinthians chapter 13. I'm going to start at verse 8. Love never fails, it never fades nor ends, but as for prophecies, they will pass away. As for tongues, they will cease. As for the gift of special knowledge, it will pass away. For we know in part, and we prophesy in part, for our knowledge is fragmentary and incomplete. But when that which is complete and perfect comes, that which is incomplete and partial will pass away. When I was a child, I talked like a child, I thought like a child, I reasoned like a child. When I became a man, I did away with childish things. For now, in this time of imperfection, we see in a mirror dimly, a blurred reflection, a riddle, an enigma. But then, when the time of perfection comes, we will see reality face to face. Now I know in part, just in fragments, but then I will know fully, just as I have been fully known by God. And now there remain faith, which is abiding trust in God and his promises, hope, which is confident expectation of eternal salvation, love, unselfish love for others growing out of God's love for me. These three are the choicest graces, but the greatest of these is love. Now, what I love about this section is that it's talking about this current time of imperfection. And, when you ask Ron, how is it that evil exists now? My response is there is a divine order and a divine plan that's playing out. God's character attributes that we were discussing, omnipotence, omniscience, omnibenevolence, there is a greater divine plan of which we are an integral part. There are things that we don't know right now. We know as human nature exists, we have free will to do whatever we want. God does not create evil, but he allows it. Okay, really quick, I wanted to read something that my friend who's a professor at a seminary, she just texted me. I wrote her this morning and let her know I was doing this video, and I asked her if she had anything to add, and I wanted to add this in. So she said that the main thing she wanted to add in, God creates what is good, sinful people corrupt it. And she thinks it's C.S. Lewis, but I'm not exactly sure. I think she said it was him, but we'll look it up. Satan can't create anything, only corrupt it, or take what God created and pervert it. Also, she has an amazing YouTube channel if you're interested in more theological approaches to topics. It's called Blonde Orthodoxy. I'll link it below. Okay, we'll get back to what I was saying. And so us as humans, we can do whatever we want. We can do things to each other that are immoral. And, I got into the human nature briefly, but, you can read that chapter on morality, or we can do a whole video on it if you're interested in more of that, which it is very interesting information to me too. But anyway, I do believe that this section of 1 Corinthians really does a good job of encapsulating what I believe, that there is a divine order. And when we have faith, which is abiding trust in God and his promises, I was talking about this yesterday. What is his promise? That everything will be brought to light. We have faith that all will make sense in the end. We don't know now, we know in part, but then we have promises that God said when all of this time is over, this time of perfection will be over at some point. And when it is, all will be revealed. The truth will be revealed. And so we have hope, which is confident expectation of eternal salvation. And we act in love. And this is unselfish love for others that grow out of God's love for each one of us. So I love that verse. I hope that's useful to you. It was extremely useful to me. And it makes sense to me. And then I wanted to cover a little bit about Galatians 5 very briefly. So I wanted to break this into, I know we've been talking a little bit about human morality, free will, that kind of thing. So I just wanted to present some different aspects of humanity here. So on the side of works of the flesh, you have immorality, idolatry, enmity, strife, jealousy, anger, rivalries, divisions, envies. So this is all that stems from evil, right? This is stuff that is not very useful. I mean, I guess what we're arguing here is that these things are useful. So I guess I have to retract that, right? These are things that exist, okay? But they're things that exist and that exist in the world. Then you have on the other side the fruits of the Spirit, which are love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control, all these things that also can exist. And so we have the free will to choose works of the flesh or fruits of the Spirit, and we're living in this time of imperfection where we have the free will to do these things. And I think it's really interesting right now where we're seeing so much of this struggle between liberty and slavery on this planet, and it's so palpable. You can see it, and I think it even highlights more just how beautiful of a world this is, that we are very powerful to have the free will to do these things. And I am so grateful that we have a God that gave us free will so that we can act in our own accord and do the things that we want to choose and do and all of that. So I hope that's useful. I wanted to end this particular video on 2 Peter. I've got so many Bibles around me right now. Okay. And this is the English Standard Version that I'm going to be reading from. And I wanted to read the section called Confirm Your Calling and Election. And this is 2 Peter 1. His divine power has granted to us all things that pertain to life and godliness through the knowledge of him who called us to his own glory and excellence, by which he has granted to us his precious and very great promises, so that through them you may become partakers of the divine nature, having escaped from the corruption that is in the world because of sinful desire. For this very reason, make every effort to supplement your faith with virtue, and virtue with knowledge, and knowledge with self-control, and self-control with steadfastness, and steadfastness with godliness, and godliness with brotherly affection, for brotherly affection with love. For if these qualities are yours and are increasing, they keep you from being ineffective or unfruitful in the knowledge of our Lord Jesus Christ. For whoever lacks these qualities is so nearsighted that he is blind, having forgotten that he was cleansed from his former sins. Therefore, brothers, be all the more diligent to confirm your calling and election, for if you practice these qualities, you will never fall. For in this way, there will be richly provided for you an entrance into the eternal kingdom of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. So I wanted to share that with you as kind of pulling this whole thing together, because I feel like your question was very good, and I wanted to make sure I was sort of just covering all the basics here. And I know that it's one of those questions that it's crucial to the conversation. How is it that evil still exists? And what it comes down to is free will, God's character. That's kind of the level here that we start with. And then I get into talking about the time of imperfection, the divine order, the divine plan, the divine timing, and then talking about our will and our capacities to be able to have that free will to choose if we're going to do good or evil. And then ultimately there being a great revealing in the end. So I think that I've done a pretty good job, I hope, in covering all of this. And then I wanted to tell you something really cool. So this morning I lost the feed for a second. So I wanted to end with something that happened this morning that was really cool. I woke up in the middle of the night, and sometimes in the state between asleep and awake, which is called hypnagogia, I get messages passed through, whether it's like they're like usually sentences that are very impacting and powerful. And something that came through this morning was in relation to your question, Ron, and I wanted to share it with you. And I wrote it down. So I was in that moment thinking about what you had asked about evil, and the sentence that came to me was, evil exists so that we can be aware, like made consciously aware. Hold on, let me find it really quick. I'm going to lose the feed again, but let me pull up. I want to read exactly what it said. being aware of the difference between this and what comes next. So the crux of this is that we live in a world right now where we have the opportunity to become consciously aware of the difference between what we're experiencing here on this planet, where Satan is in control of a lot, satanic agenda, weird crap, liberty versus slavery. There's so much slavery on this planet. We are experiencing this right now so that we can be made aware of the difference of what's going on now and what will happen next. Don't you feel like we will be able to appreciate perfection much better when we can grasp how imperfect this time is? I don't know. That's just kind of where my head goes. And it makes me even more hopeful and faith-filled during the times where things are bad. I mean, I've been through some crap over the last few years. I've almost died. And it's like, through all of this mess, I've become actually more faithful than ever before, because I've become so aware of the evil that exists and the pain and just all of the really, really bad. I mean, I think most people in their life go through some kind of form of horrible depressive phase. Is that even a word? Depression phase of depression. And it's in those times that we really draw near to God and we transcend physical reality. It forces us to put things into perspective. Well, it doesn't force us to, but it gives us the opportunity to elevate and see things from a higher plane of existence. And I think that most of the people on this channel that watch Divine Frequency, we sense that, we feel that, it's palpable. We feel it deep inside of us that there is a spiritual level to what's going on. And we're always trying to seek to find what is that deeper level of existence that we can get to. And so I just want you to know, Ron, I super appreciate you jumping in and having this conversation with me, because I love that we can sit here and try to find a middle place where we agree. And I do think that we'll agree on a lot. I mean, I loved everything you said. I would love to sit down and chat with you. I feel like we'd have a good chat. And I know that each and every one of us has something very valuable to bring to the table. And I also understand that everybody has a different perspective. And what I don't want anyone to think is that because I'm, reading from the Bible, or that I'm Christian and I'm very strongly Christian, that I'm going to try to negate other people's thoughts and perspectives. That's not what I'm here to do. In fact, that's the opposite of what I want to do. So I wanted to showcase this today as an example of exactly what I want to do on this channel. I love that you can come and ask me these things and we can have these conversations. So anyway, I hope this was useful to you, and I'm really excited to hear what you think back. And everybody else watching, jump into the comments. Let's have some more conversations. And I think that's pretty much it. Make sure that you follow the blog, thedivinefrequency.com. We've got some amazing content coming out, and keep watching the videos. I'm going to be trying to do daily videos for, I don't know how long it's going to last, how long the stamina will last, but I'm going to try to keep doing it. So anyway, love you guys. This is Teresa at Divine Frequency. All around us are pieces of the gigantic cosmic puzzle. Let's attune to its frequency. This is Teresa signing off. Bye.